be seated. Welcome. Welcome to the University of Maryland School of Public Policy commencement exercises for 2016. I'm Robert Orr, the Dean of the School of Public Policy. I am delighted to share with you all of the excitement and pride that comes with this wonderful day. This is a celebration. It's a celebration of our amazing students, their intelligence, their hard work, and the sacrifice to get to this day. It is also a celebration of public service. These candidates before you are prepared to serve the public good. There is no higher calling. There is no more noble endeavor. We are very excited about the challenges, the opportunities, and the success that we know that lies ahead for our graduates. They will, quite literally, change the world for the better. These graduates don't think small. During their time here in Maryland, they have gone after all the big issues of the day: addressing climate change, eradicating poverty, preventing nuclear proliferation, ending wars, making discrimination in all its forms a thing of the past, and providing prosperity, health, and education for all. And that was just before lunch. But these amazing individuals we celebrate today don't just dream big, they deliver big. At commencement, it is often said that students go forth into the world as if they were marching out of the ivory tower into the, quote, real world. But our students have been in the real world, and they are shaping it already. They came with experience. They have done projects for clients. They've done internships, applied research, and service projects. They are not just starting a career when they leave here. They are deepening it, and with that, their impact on the world. In December, when I went to Paris to try to help facilitate a global climate agreement, I did not go alone. Not only were there faculty from our school there, our students were there too. Despite the preceding terrorist attacks, they braved it, they covered it, and they participated in it. They were not just witnesses to history, they helped make it. Flash forward 5 months, 2 weeks ago, here on this campus, including here in this room, and in Washington, D.C., our school co-hosted with the Secretary General of the United Nations, the President of the World Bank, and the heads of leading global and business and civil society institutions, hosted the first international multi-stakeholder summit on climate implementation since the passage of the Paris Agreement. Our students not only helped put this global summit together, they starred in it. For 3 days, global leaders cited the work, the passion, and the vision of our students. As your dean, I have never been prouder. And you, our students, have changed the world and this corner of the world in many other ways too. You have fought human trafficking here in our region, close to home. You have founded and supported food recovery and anti-hunger efforts that have helped literally tens of thousands of people eat. I am moved by your commitment. I am awed by all you have achieved already. As some in our political life speak of building walls, you have torn them down and built bridges in their place. You have designed and hosted events focusing on overcoming racial and economic inequity. You have helped our campus take steps to overcome the stubborn legacy of racism. And you have worked with and for people of all races, religions, nationalities, and viewpoints here in our state, in our neighborhood, and in this country. I am inspired and humbled by the leadership that you all have shown. Some of you took international study courses and served as our ambassadors to China, India, Ethiopia, Morocco, Peru, and I'm sure some of you went to places that I still haven't heard about. Top government officials and leading citizens in all of these countries have told me how impressed they were by our students. I could not agree with them more. Graduates, all this pomp and circumstance is for you, but it is also for your families. They too have worked hard and sacrificed much to see this day. Please stand and give your loved ones a round of applause. They all have really big smiles on their faces. I think that meant it was a real, genuine applause, families. You should know that. Finally, before we proceed with this ceremony, let me pass on just a few words of deanly advice. Wednesday, at the campus-wide ceremony, there were a group of what we call Golden Terps, people who graduated in the class of 1966. I want you to just take a minute and think about what the world will look like and what it will be like when you come back as Golden Policy Terps in, wait for it, 2066. Now, not all of us may be with you at that point, so I want you to make sure that you are doing everything you can to take care of this world in the year 2066. Here at the School of Public Policy, you have all crossed many borders, national, state, local, as well as disciplines, sectors, fields. Continue to specialize in border crossing. It is truly the future. And lastly, graduates, resist the stultifying incrementalism that is involved in many policy processes. Be bold. Push things further and faster. We need you to be the drivers of change. Each year, the students select a classmate to make a few remarks. This year's graduate selected Christopher Shoto. This morning, Christopher will receive a master's in public policy degree with a specialization in international security and economic policy. He graduated from the University of Oregon in 2012 with his bachelor's degree in political science and a minor in economics. Christopher spent the next 2 years at the joint POW-MIA Accounting Command, now known as the Defense Personnel Accounting Agency, and as an intern in ORISA, the Oak Ridge Institute for Scientific Education, as a fellow, where he worked on the Solvability and Resolvability Index project. Say that fast a couple times. This June, Christopher will begin working as a program officer with international arts and artists, focusing on cultural diplomacy and peace building through the arts. Mr. Shoto, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dean Orr, very much for that wonderful introduction. Oh, wow, graduation's kind of metal. So after being told that my talk could include neither a 20-minute guitar solo nor a reenactment of a scene from Wolf on Wall Street, I decided that this time was best spent sincerely. And so I'd like to speak honestly with all of you for a few minutes. First, I'd like to say thank you to everyone present today. I'd like to thank my parents, my brother, and my girlfriend for being here, and of course for their perpetual love and support. I'd like to thank our professors and the faculty and staff of the Policy School. Yeah, let's get a round of applause for them. Thank you. That is someone's water. It's been a privilege to study and learn under the guidance and the mentorship of some of the finest scholars, practitioners, and educators that the world has to offer. I'd like to say thank you to all the families and friends who have come to share this moment of hopeful triumph, celebration, and frankly, great relief. We stand, as it were, over the slain beast of project course, and we're all glad that you're here with us. Which brings me to you, the graduates. Today is about you and all of your accomplishments. By the way, you all look fantastic in your gowns and whatnot. I expect Dumbledore will be arriving soon. There's a certain irony in having time to think about what one wants to say. And it makes you ask, what do I really want to tell people? I could tell you that I arrived here in Maryland with no real policy experience, no friends in the area, and a suitcase full of uncertainty. And that all of you, once strangers, help this place feel like home. I could tell you that the little moments of commiseration that we shared over the past 2 years were more than just vapid whining. They reassured me that I wasn't alone in feeling overwhelmed by the huge questions we were faced with and the prospect of grappling larger, more difficult problems with greater risks in the future. I can tell you that this class inspires me to hope. I've never seen such a density of ambition, talent, inquisitiveness, or persistence as I have seen amongst all of you. But instead, let me just say that I'm honored to be a part of this class, and congratulations all of you on an achievement hard-earned. I'm proud to see you, my friends and colleagues, moving on to greater opportunities and positions of significance around the globe, and by virtue of your merits and ongoing hard work, nothing else. And so, if I may leave you with a final thought to take with you as you face and conquer your next challenge, your next adventure into the endless possibilities of our sweet and fortunate lives. The change we seek for the world must begin with us, and the hope that future generations will live happier, healthier, more peaceful, and more meaningful lives than our own is kept alive in the way we treat the people and things around us, our environment, our family, friends, and even those people with whom it is sometimes difficult to cooperate. And so I beseech you all to recall the words of William S. Preston and Theodore Logan, as they're more pertinent now than they ever have been. Be excellent to each other, and party on, dudes. Thank you for this honor.
Thank you, Christopher. Be excellent to each other. Good advice. These people will come back to haunt you if you don't. In addition to selecting a student to speak to the graduates each year elect one of their professors to address them on this final day, at their final day at the school. This year, the students selected Professor Philip Swagel. Professor Swagel earned his PhD in economics from Harvard University. He served as Assistant Secretary for Economic Policy at the Treasury Department under President George W. Bush, and was responsible for analysis on issues including housing, financial markets, healthcare, pensions, and macroeconomic forecasts. Previously, Professor Swagel served as Chief of Staff and a Senior Economist at the White House Council of Economic Advisors, and as an economist at the International Monetary Fund and the Federal Reserve Board. He now teaches courses on international economics and macroeconomics. With great delight, I give you Professor Philip Swagel.
Good. Thanks, Dinora, and thanks to all of you. It's really an honor and a pleasure to speak today. I want to say a few words first about our graduates, and I'll look up as I do that, and then inevitably I have to offer some advice, and so I'll look down at the graduates. Okay, so now, actually I'm not sure whether it's possible to absorb advice while wearing one of these things, but we will try, okay? So to the parents, to the families, what I tell people about the policy school is that our students want to save the world. Right? People ask, and I say, that's it. What our students want to save the world, and at least make it a better place, but they really want to save the world. Some want to do it here in the United States, working to improve healthcare, education policy, or even just making the government work better. Some will go back to their home countries. We have a great range of students from other countries, and some will represent the United States at the State Department, the Millennium Challenge Corporation, Commerce Department, USTR, other places around the world. One among you, who I see right in front of me, is very difficult to miss, has told me he's going to become president. You know who you are, and said he can make his project course on immigration reform, turn that into action, and I hope you succeed. You'll make our country a better place and our economy stronger. I also hear that Florida is a swing state, so you're in good shape. I've had the privilege to teach several members of our graduating class who after today will return to their service in the Air Force. And thank you, lieutenants, for protecting us, and may you also be protected. To all the graduates, let me just say on behalf of the entire faculty behind me that we are proud of you. We are proud of all of you. Okay, so now for the advice, which I guess I look down. All right, and you're allowed one sheet of notes for this. I've taught about half of you. Okay, so this advice is gathered from my experience working in the government, and Dinor told you about the various places I've been. And I was gonna say one day, perhaps I'll have another opportunity to follow this advice in the government. But I think given the events of this very strange political season, it's a good bet that's not gonna happen the next 4 years. Okay, so the first advice is, good, everyone gets that, right? Having worked at the George W. Bush Treasury. All right, the first advice is from a colleague at the Treasury who before coming to the Treasury had a very successful career on Wall Street. And actually, that describes most of my colleagues at the Treasury. But I have in mind someone specific. It's Bob Steele, who is the number 3 at the Treasury when I was there. And Bob was remarkable in many ways, but what I took away was he had something nice to say about everyone and about the work they were doing. And even people who I would look at and say, those people weren't really doing that great a job, Bob had something nice to say about them, or some encouragement. And I once asked him why. And his answer was very simple. He said, people like to be praised, they don't like to be criticized. And so it seems simple, but I took away a lesson. If you want to motivate people, praising them for something lets them know that their efforts will be rewarded and appreciated. And Bob was really well liked, but he was also incredibly effective. His approach worked. So my advice is to find the good in what people are doing. If you're working with people who aren't getting the job done, or even people just with whom you disagree, and of course it's inevitable you're going to work with both types of people, try to stay positive. And one way to do it is to start by thinking about the goals you share. Focus on the goals, and then think about, okay, how to reach those goals. But always stay positive, be constructive, solve problems, don't dwell on them, and don't waste time placing blame. Okay, so that's one. I have 3 pieces of advice. All right, my second piece, shorter, is related to the first one, but is very specific. So this is the practical part of graduation, and that's never send a negative email. Right? It's very specific. It's very difficult. Never. And even the passive-aggressive negative emails, don't send those either, right? So you can write them, right? It feels good to write them, but don't send them. So, and the insight is that email is a really good way to have a fight, but is not a good way to solve a problem. And we all want you to go solve problems and make the world a better place, and you can't do that with negative emails. Okay, so that's number 2. My third and last advice is something that I am sure all of you have heard from us, from your professors, and that's to be clear and direct in communicating your ideas. So state your most important point first, and then make sure your bottom line is up front, right? You heard me say that all the time. And the really practical part is that when you're done, when you're done writing something, read it out loud, right? Do this and read it out loud. And it might sound kind of awkward if someone's in earshot of you, but trust me, it's the best way to make sure that your typos, the diction, that everything is right. And you can bet that I read these remarks out loud, and it really helped. It was I realized all the Trump jokes just didn't work, so they're all gone. And of course, I say that with tears. So, all right, let me end by reversing one piece of advice. Again, those of you who took my class understand the tears. Reversing one piece of advice many of you have heard from me before today. And I taught about half of you. And you might remember that in class, doing assignments, I told you steer clear of social concerns. I said, if you care about social justice, if you care about, I had this whole list of all the good things that you should care about. I said, I don't want to hear about it. I said, which is terrible, but I really wanted you to focus on macro. Right? I taught macroeconomics, and I want you to focus on macro. And this made sense as pedagogy, but now I want the opposite. Right? I urge you in the opposite direction. And as Bob said, as the dean said, we live in a very sharply divided society, and in a nation and a world facing big challenges. And I want you to tackle these challenges and heal our divisions. That's what we all want from you. And to do that, you'll have to have these social concerns at the very front of your mind. Okay, now fine, perhaps they will share some mental space with the ISLM diagram or the uncovered interest parity equations. I don't want you to forget those, right? Those economic tools. I urge you to retain and consult your notes from class. But please, also retain the idealism that brought you here and consult regularly with your passions and dreams. So I've admired your drive, your optimism, your achievement. Congratulations to all of you and to your families. And please, graduates of our School of Public Policy, go make the world a better place.
I love this day for many reasons. The dean just learned that Professor Swagel is funny. Many of our graduates today are recipients of special awards or honors. They have distinguished themselves during their tenure at the school as public leaders, activists, and scholars. First, I am delighted to honor the graduates who received named fellowship awards during their tenure at the school. The names of the fellowships appear on the back of your program. Let me ask all of the graduates who have received a named fellowship to please stand up so we can recognize and honor you. Professor Susan Schwab will now honor the graduates who have been inducted into the Pi Alpha Alpha National Honor Society. Professor Schwab served as Dean of the School of Public Policy during some of its most formative years. She then went on to serve as President of the University System of Maryland Foundation, and then as the U.S. Trade Representative under President George W. Bush, before returning to the faculty where she teaches courses on trade and international globalization. Professor Schwab.
Thank you, Dean Orr. Congratulations, everyone. The Pi Alpha Alpha National Honor Society encourages and recognizes outstanding scholarship and accomplishment in public policy and administration education, as well as integrity, professionalism, and effective performance in the conduct of government and related public service activities. Only students and graduates meeting the highest academic standards are invited into Pi Alpha Alpha. I'm delighted to recognize the students from this year's School of Public Policy graduating class who have been so honored. When I read your name, please stand up. Stay standing until all the names have been announced. Hold your applause until then, if you would. The Pi Alpha Alpha Honor Society inductees among this year's graduates are Brandon Bedford, Margaret Doyle, Cheryl Ann Wilson Drakes, Laura Krall, Kevin Metrikowski, Lynn Pong, and Zach Scheinerman. Congratulations.
Thank you, Professor Schwab. Professor Kenneth Apfel will now honor the Presidential Management Fellowship recipients. It is most fitting that Professor Apfel do the honors because his own career began as what was then known as the Presidential Management Intern. That career saw him rise to Legislative Director to Senator Bill Bradley, Assistant Secretary for Management and Budget at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Associate Director for Human Resources at the White House Office of Management and Budget, and finally, Commissioner of Social Security under President Clinton. Professor Apfel.
The Presidential Management Fellows Program was established by executive order almost 4 decades ago, so I'm kind of old. It was designed to attract to federal service outstanding individuals skilled in the analysis and management of public policies and programs. Fellows were selected through a highly competitive national process, and I know that some of you are aware of that process. The extraordinary nature of the students who come from this school, Maryland School of Public Policy, is reflected by the fact that this year's PMF class has 5 people who've been selected for the PMF, which is amazing. One of those 5, Jennifer Hunt, is already working on her job, and she couldn't be with us today. So I'm delighted, though, to recognize the 4 other Presidential Management Fellows who could be with us today. So when I read your name, please stand up and remain standing until all 4 names have been announced, and please hold your applause until all the names have been read. So the Presidential Management Fellows are Thomas Babington, Romel Calderwood, Kyle Edson, Kevin Mentronoski, go make the world a better place.
Announcing this year's Excellence in Scholarship Award is Assistant Dean Nina Harris. Dean Harris earned her PhD in Educational Leadership from the University of Delaware. Her career has focused on the development and administration of ethical and effective leadership skills in a pluralistic world. She now serves as the school's inaugural Assistant Dean for Undergraduate Studies. Dean Harris.
Thank you and congratulations to you all. Each year, we like to recognize the graduates in the Master of Public Policy program who managed to get through a very challenging and diverse curriculum with the highest academic performance amongst their peers. The Master of Public Policy graduate whose academic performance was the very highest in this year's graduating class is, drum roll please, Todd Ross McGarvey. Is he here? Please stand. Congratulations, Todd.
Thank you, Dean Harris, and congratulations, Todd. We did our best to make sure he didn't receive that award because he volunteered so much time on the climate summit that I'm afraid his GPA might have slipped. But if it did, he still had a margin. Congratulations. It is now my great pleasure to introduce today's commencement speaker. In the face of a very messy world, I wanted to choose a speaker who embodies what this School of Public Policy is about. Someone who has been in the arena, who has taken on the toughest of problems, who has conceived and presented solutions, and who has led. I also wanted someone who inspires. Today's speaker has inspired me as a colleague and a global citizen for many, many years. Jane Hall Lute. Jane has an extraordinary range of experience as a policymaker in the United States and the international sphere. She is currently the Special Coordinator on improving the United Nations response to sexual exploitation and abuse. Lute also serves concurrently as the Special Advisor to the Secretary General on the relocation of Camp Haria residents outside of Iraq. Prior to rejoining the UN, Dr. Lute served as Deputy Secretary for the Department of Homeland Security and the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for Internet Security, an independent nonprofit with a mission to lead the global community to a secure cyber future. Dr. Lute has also previously served as Assistant Secretary General for Peacekeeping, responsible for the comprehensive on-the-ground support to all UN peace operations worldwide. From 2007 to 2008, she established and led the Department of Field Support as Acting Undersecretary General. Dr. Lute served on the National Security Council staff under both President George H.W. Bush and President William Jefferson Clinton, and had a distinguished career in the United States Army, including service in the Gulf during Operation Desert Storm. She has a PhD in political science from Stanford University and a JD from Georgetown University. Jane, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So I went to college in the 70s, and I did my graduate work at Stanford. I'm taking the hat off. Well, thanks very much, Bob Orr. I can't think of anyone in my professional career that I admire more than Bob. He also has done it all. And he's done it with a caring and a commitment to his colleagues and now to you that you should never take for granted. He's an extraordinary human being who thinks very large and then puts his own hands to work on those large ideals. So thank you, Dean Orr. I'd also like to thank Dean Joyce, Dean Powers, Dean Harris, and Dean Savia. And I'd also like to thank the faculty here, many of whom I know personally, but many of whom also have inspired me over the course of my own career. And these are giants in our field: Thomas Schelling, Catherine Kelleher, the late John Steinbrunner, Mac Dessler, Susan, as Bob mentioned, and others here on this stage. And I promised myself anytime I got an opportunity to talk at a commencement, I would thank my doctor father, Alexander George, another giant in American political science, and other teachers that I have had along the way: David Hamburg, the president of Carnegie Corporation of New York, Brent Scowcroft, national security advisor to presidents, and so much more, Cy Vance, the former Secretary of State. I've had the privilege and opportunity to work up close and personal with all of these individuals. And what they taught me about policymaking was not nearly as important as what they taught me about being kind. They taught me that you can be in this business and you can be kind. I don't always act like I understand that, but I have learned that message and I've never forgotten it. When we were backstage, Bob said to the graduates, "Jane Lute is the embodiment of you. I am so very sorry." If that's the case, I can tell you on May 20th, 2041, you will be up at 3:20 in the morning taking your child to ice skating practice. You will lock yourself out of your house as you're racing to give a commencement address at the request of an honored colleague and friend. But I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about exactly what Bob said, the kind of world you're going into now in this phase of your careers, and how to think about policy and the role of government. What might all of this mean for you over the next 25 years? Can you make a difference? Can you even make a dent? And how will you know? 25 years from now, what do you want to see when you look back to know that yours was a life well lived? What kind of world are you entering? Is it really different than any that has gone on before? Is it messier? Is it more unpredictable, uncertain, unbalanced, digital, disrupted, dangerous? How different is different? For people who are 25 today, you were roughly born in 1991. Yeah, the Berlin Wall had fallen, the Soviet Union had collapsed, the Gulf War came and went, and we were beginning NATO expansion, which would ultimately nearly double the size of that institution. If you were 25 in 1991, you were born roughly in 1966. France pulled out of NATO. Vietnam troop levels were just beginning to peak and go on a major upswing, and the global population was 3.4 billion. And people who were 25 in 1966 were born roughly in 1941. Pearl Harbor. The US population was 133 million. Who was in charge in 1941? Franklin Roosevelt was 59 years old. Churchill was 67. Stalin was 63. Truman was 57. Hitler was 52. Who wasn't in charge? Ho Chi Minh, he was 51. Mao Zedong, 48. Ronald Reagan was 30. Nelson Mandela was 23. Pope Francis was 5. Why am I telling you all this? Look around. Look at each other. Hey, you never know. So what makes today so unsettling? Is it the violence? Is it extraordinary social progress? Scientific or medical discovery? Thank God the people who are studying the brain believe that they are living in their renaissance. I'm like, amen. Good for you. Keep it up. We're happy that you are. The geneticists, the cancer progress, it's extraordinary. Is what characterize our age the economic trials that we're facing? Or is it that our politics is making this period of time feel different than anything else? One thing certainly feels different, it's digital technology, access to the internet, and let me focus on that for a minute. Because why? How big is the impact of digital technology? How big is the impact of on the internet in our lives? There is no enterprise in today's marketplace that delivers value without relying on IT and access to the internet. You've heard it all before. It's possible today. I mean, Uber is the world's largest taxi company with no cars, Airbnb, the world's biggest hotel with no real estate, and Alibaba, one of the largest retailers on the planet with no inventory. It's only possible because of the digital explosion that we've experienced. And how should we make sense of it? I mean, perhaps it's important to look at two powerful trends as you enter the next phase of your policy careers. And one trend, in my view, is a trend of growth, another, a trend of decay, but both of them together are fundamentally altering how we look at power, wealth, social progress, violence, politics, governance, and perhaps even geography. First, the trend of growth, and it's what I call the global cyber awakening. In 1995, there were 16 million people online, and 80% of them were English-speaking North Americans. Today, there are over 3 billion, with a B, billion people online and growing at the rate, some say, of 100 connections a minute. People are finding information and each other with ever greater ease. This is truly a global cyber awakening, which is the social consequences of the ongoing, organic, and nearly instantaneous expansion of the internet. And as people find that they can easily and reliably connect to information and to community, we are seeing in aggregate greater social confidence and political empowerment emerging among publics everywhere. And no government quite knows what to do about it. For a global population that is already healthier, wealthier, more educated, more aware, and more mobile than at any time in history, the implications can hardly be overstated. We're coping with new ideas and new ways of doing business every day, even new economic models. If our traditional socioeconomic model is rooted in the family, Facebook is making a compelling case that maybe it should be rooted in the friendship. And Google clearly holds the view that it should be rooted in you. With all that data and information circulating around the globe, we, or somebody, has come to know an awful lot about people. But what we know about people, we know mostly as consumers, not as citizens. Our understanding of people as consumers far outstrips our understanding of them as citizens. And this distinction is important. For example, in things like cybersecurity, because citizens typically demand security, and as consumers, so far, we have not. So as an early challenge in your career, you have to find the important questions and the important problems to solve. Again, to draw on the world of cyber, there's a lot of blah, blah, blah. I call it B3. Don't laugh, there's a B5 and a B7. You've been in those conversations. Blah, 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 blah. You just look at each other and go, B7. So I think there are only 3 interesting questions when it comes to cyber and the world we live in. Question 1, how do we architect systems we can trust from components we can't? Question 2, how do we ensure the integrity of our identity and our information while preserving an open internet? And question number 3, what will the role of government be? This last one is particularly tough because what, after all, what, if anything, are governments good for? I'm resisting the temptation to laugh myself, but we have to fundamentally ask that question because no one interacts with government unless they have to. So what is your theory of the case when it comes to government and when it comes to good governance? Governments are good for delivering threshold conditions of security, well-being, and justice. The rest, as we say in my religious tradition, is commentary. And governments particularly think of themselves as security specialists, but they're not in cyberspace. Why not? Because it's not clear that governments have the power that matters in cyberspace. Governments dominate security in the physical world because they're the only ones with legitimate, consolidated control over lethality. They have the power to protect us. But in cyberspace, it's the power to connect us, not the power to protect us, that constitutes real power, and you will run out of fingers before you get to the first government when you're counting out powerful actors in cyberspace. So you are entering the public sector today. You are entering this phase in your career precisely at a time when the core value proposition of the public sector is up for serious discussion. And this brings me to the trend of decay. What is decaying? What has decayed? There is a near total collapse of trust in public sector institutions worldwide. We don't trust anything. We don't trust banks. We don't trust the business. We don't trust media. We don't trust the markets. Many of us don't trust governments. We don't trust iconic institutions, and we're angry about it. Everywhere, people are angry, and you can see it. But this is a very particular kind of anger. This is not purpose-driven anger. When people have purpose-driven anger, they kill each other. This is anxiety-based anger. And what's that anxiety based on? It's based on the fundamental realization, I think, that we may no longer know how to architect trusted institutions in public space. The weight-bearing capacity of our public institutions is very much in doubt. We're seeing problems for which there are no answers. ISIS can do something that no government on the planet can do. It can draw young people from everywhere who will go anywhere because those young people feel as though they belong nowhere. And we have no answer. You must help us find that answer. Powerful norms have emerged over the past 100 years. Norms of inclusivity, nothing about me without me. Norms of transparency, norms of reciprocity, and norms of accountability. And yet, the politics we see in the world today fight our sensibilities every day. We say we want inclusivity, yet the politics of exclusion are roaring to the forefront. We say we want to have transparency, yet we all insist on a right to privacy and the ability to keep you out. We say we want reciprocity, yet our markets and our other competitive spaces reward first movers, and the powerful still sit in the pole positions. And we say we want accountability, yet global governance, interdependence, and all of the things that make our societies vibrant and complex today rail against that norm. We have to reconcile our politics with our ideas, and you must help us. Can you make a difference? Where should you start? Well, the number one rule for a successful career in this business is the same rule for a successful marriage. Remind them every day why they're lucky to have you. We have another rule in the Lute household. You get to tell me what to do or how to do it, not both. It's a rule to live by. Live every day the little things. Stand when people enter a room. Say please and thank you very often. Learn another language well. Keep something to write with you at all times. If any of you need my help, my phone number is, and you don't have anything to write with. And always 2 spaces after a period. Okay, just kidding. I'm just kidding. Right? But also be mindful of the big things. Treat the important people in your life like they're important. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You will get ideas when you have none and direction when you feel lost from the most unlikely places when you say, can you please help me? Understand respect. I used to ask audiences, how many of you are people that, like, we have to earn your respect? How many of you, work in the workplace as if people have to earn your respect? I don't ask that question anymore because a lot of people raise their hand, okay? And I don't believe that people should have to earn respect. Human beings deserve respect. Human beings deserve respect. They shouldn't have to earn respect. Let them earn your affection, earn your loyalty, earn your undying gratitude, but not your respect. Human beings deserve respect. Lift them up. Lift them up. And in the words of that famous orator, Leslie Odom Jr., okay, he plays Raymond Burr in Hamilton, said, walk toward the things that make you alive. Decide how you want to spend your time. Walk toward the things that make you alive. And take a stand. G.H. Hardy, the famous mathematician, once said, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, it's not worth an intelligent person's time to be in the majority. By definition, there are already enough people doing that. Take a stand. How will you know that you're succeeding? You won't always. You won't. You have to find the voices that you can trust to help you with this. Whatever you do, don't ever believe your press. Frankly, you're never that good or that bad. And just when you think you have arrived, that you are important enough because you're working at the White House, I'm in the governor's office, I'm on the secretary's plane, I have an office on the E-ring, or gotta go, 38th floor is calling. Put that next phone call you get through to your inbox. Just lay the phone in your inbox, because that's what people probably are calling, not you. So don't ever need it. Always be able to walk away. And when you get that feeling that people are only talking to you because of your issues or your access, remember the important people in your life. If you take my advice, they will always be there for you. So where will you find yourself in 5, 10, or 25 years? Okay, look, I don't know either. But don't limit yourself to what you can imagine at this moment. Magic is going to happen. You're going to witness history in the making. You are going to stand shoulder to shoulder with greatness, and you will bear unspeakable pain. And what will you learn? You'll learn that your parents were often right, that hard work does pay off, and that the respect and admiration of valued colleagues can carry you a very, very long way, and that none of it compares to Mama, you're home. Now, as your dean did, I would like you to begin this phase of your careers in the way that I guarantee you will end it, by standing and turning around and thanking the people who made this moment possible. And I thank you all very much and wish you the best of success.
Dr. Lute, could I invite you back for 1 second? We would like to show our appreciation for that amazing discussion with a gift that includes, yes, a turtle. And Dr. Lute, I learned something else today. I learned what a B7 was. That was a Y7. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, yes. And now, the moment you all have been waiting for, and perhaps even more, you all have been waiting for, graduation. We will begin with the students who will be receiving the university's highest degree, the Doctor of Philosophy. To introduce our PhD graduates, let me introduce the director of our doctoral program, Professor Anand Patwardhan. Professor Patwardhan earned his own PhD from the Carnegie Mellon University. He specializes in strategies to understand and respond to changes in the climate. He looks at clean technology as well as the broader issues of science, technology, and innovation policy. He is an international leader in the United Nations efforts to understand climate change. Professor Patwardhan.
Thank you, Dean Orr, and congratulations to you all. It is my pleasure to honor the 8 students who are graduating this year with their PhD in policy studies. The PhD degree marks the culmination of many years of work, I will not tell you how many, at the highest level, and prepares our students to be leaders in their fields, in their areas of interest, and become the next generation of teachers and scholars who will guide and define the field of public policy. Our first PhD graduate is Holti Banka. His dissertation was titled From Cash to Electronic Payments, Microeconomic, Macroeconomic, and Policy Aspects of Retail Payment Systems, advised by Phil Swagel. Professor Swagel will do the honors for hooding Holti. Holti's research deals with an important problem of moving from cash-based to electronic payment systems, which is being seen as an important tool for enabling more secure, efficient, and inclusive financial systems. Holti will go on from here to continue in his position at the World Bank, where he will be helping with the implementation of the Universal Financial Access 2020 platform, which aims to enable 1 billion people globally to gain access to a transaction account by 2020. Our next graduate is Magdalena Bendini. Magdalena's dissertation was titled The Effect of Stress on Developmental Trajectories, Empirical Evidence from Peru, advised by Carol Graham and Professor Dave Crocker, and Professor Crocker will do the honors of hooding Magdalena. Magdalena's dissertation examines the effect of stress on early childhood development by conducting original research related to nutritional and cognitive outcomes among children in Peru. Her research has argued for the importance of sheltering children from stress, particularly in low-income settings. And Magdalena will continue where she is working now at the World Bank in the social protection global practice. Magdalena. Moving on from development to climate change, our next graduate is Yiyun Kui, whose dissertation was titled The Risks to Food Availability and Access from Climate Policies, an integrated assessment of regional food availability and access with alternative climate mitigation strategies to 2050, advised by Professor Nate Hultman and Professor Elizabeth Gilmore. Professor Hultman will do the honors of hooding Yiyun. Rena's research shows that certain climate policies might generate unintended consequences for food availability and access. Her work suggests how climate policy could be connected to other policy objectives such as food security and conservation. Our next 4 candidates are all from the international security and economic policy area, and here I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the contribution of Professor John Steinbrenner, who passed away tragically, but whose spirit really lives on in 3 of his advisees who are graduating this year, and who I am sure will carry on his legacy and try and continue his work. Nilsu Goren. Her dissertation was titled Turkish Security Policy Making on Nuclear Issues, Conceptualizing Advanced Cooperative Security Strategies, advised by the late John Steinbrenner, Nancy Gallagher, and Professor Mac Dessler. Nancy Gallagher will do the honors for hooding Nilsu. Turkey is a key country in a strategically important region, and Nilsu's dissertation helps in building a shared understanding between US, NATO, and Turkish policymakers regarding threat perceptions, security objectives, and strategic implications of these objectives. Nilsu goes on from here to be a visiting researcher at the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Education and Research Center at the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology in South Korea. Nilsu. Nancy Hayden. Her dissertation is titled Balancing Belligerence or Feeding the Beast, Transforming Conflict Traps, advised by the late John Steinbrenner and our own Dean Robert Orr, and perhaps gets the award for the most innovative title of the dissertation. Nancy's work addressed the question of why so many civil conflicts persist in spite of extensive domestic and international efforts to bring about their transformation. Using historical data and original field research, she found that conflict transformation is likely only when local-level cooperative factors such as gender equality are strengthened as a result of foreign interventions and are coupled with the development of strong national security capacity and reach. Nancy will go on from here to her job at the Sandia National Laboratories, where she will be a national security analyst working in this area. Thank you. Nancy. Elnigar Iltebir. Elnigar's dissertation is titled Turkey's New Foreign Policy Orientation, A Threat to the West, advised by Professor Mac Dessler. Professor Dessler, unfortunately, is not here today, and I will request Professor Peter Reuter to do the honors for hooding Elnigar. Elnigar's dissertation uses a series of case studies on Turkey's foreign policy to answer the question of whether the recent changes in Turkish foreign policy represent a fundamental reorientation of the country away from the Western alliance, and to examine the dominant factors driving foreign policy during this period. Elnigar will continue to work as an economic analyst in the federal government after graduation. Elnigar. Anya Lukyanova is our next graduate. Her dissertation was titled Clouds of Suspicion, Airspace Arrangements, Escalation, and Discord in US-NATO-Russian Relations, advised by the late John Steinbrenner, Mac Dessler, and Nancy Gallagher. I'd once again like to request Professor Gallagher to come up and hood Anya. Anya's dissertation provides insights into shifts in Euro-Atlantic security since the end of the Cold War, including the mechanics of integration of Central and Eastern European states into NATO, conflicts involving Georgia and Ukraine, and the ongoing discord involving Russia's place in regional security. Anya will be starting as a Stanton Nuclear Security Fellow at RAND in September. Anya. Our final PhD graduate for today is Ying Zhang, whose dissertation is titled Essays on WTO Accession, Household Income, and Multidimensional Poverty, Evidence from China, advised by Professor David Crocker and Madiha Afzal. I'd like to request Professor Crocker to come up and do the honors. Ying's dissertation examines the impact of China's WTO accession on income distribution, compares China's income and multidimensional poverty reduction, and investigates the factors that predict multidimensional poverty. It reaffirms the importance of trade and that trade openness plays an important role in development in advanced economies and increasing people's income. However, solely depending on monetary policies does not guarantee the achievement of the desirable developmental goals of improving people's quality of life. Ying Zhang. My congratulations again to all the PhD graduates.
Congratulations and well done to our newly minted doctors. My only piece of advice to you is when someone says, "Is there a doctor in the house?" keep your hand down. Will the master's class of 2016 please rise and approach the stage?
The candidates for the Master of Public Policy degree are Thomas Macaulay Babington, Brandon Earl Bedford, Jason Philip Besser, Heidi Bishop, Christina Bowman, Coriel Brown, Laura Ann Chikovich, Madeline Grace Cohn, Alexander Cook, Kirsten Taylor Kraft, Joey Dahl, Carrie Dara, Julie Ann Dennis, Hong Chi Ding, Margaret Barnard Doyle, Katie Kaiser Dunkelberger, Michelle Ashley Eckstein, Thomas Stone Elder, Danielle Lee Farmer, Jeanette Fernandez, Courtney Ferraro, Jessica Finkel. Anthony Joseph Francis. Dominic Antonio Garcia. Kelsey Claire Getz. Sarah Emily Gordon. Jessica Rose Gottesman. Cleo Grillakis. Emily Lucy Hamrick. Ann Odell Hankins. Miriam Harris. Michael Vincent Hartz. Nicholas James Henninger. Malia Howe. Patrick Dewan Josie. Brandon Jahesh. Shannon Kennedy. Christina Nip. Maxat Koroluev. Laura Krall. Maria Lau. Shayna Beth Mazel. Todd McGarvey. Chloe McGraw. Kathleen Virginia McNamara. Kevin Mentrikoski. Christopher William Mertens. Jonah Michael Myers. Thomas Michael Minter. Andrea Mitran. Krishna Naganeni. Jennifer Nguyen. Robin Claire Nickel. Christopher Olson. Jennifer Onyimba. Jocelyn O'Rourke. Elizabeth Pandya. Kathy Powell. Chandra Patterson. Lynn Pung. Victoria Plotkin. Jessica Lynn Prush. Yan Chu. Jolene Quinlan. Stephen Rabin. Emily Reinhard. Ichun Ren. Ji Ren. Daria Safai. Derek Sandblom. Zachary Scheinerman. Christopher Shato. Emily Margot Selman. Yun Sheng. Mishan Tart. Ina Sis. Chenjing Wang. Daniel Wolf. Lee Shah. The candidates for the Master of Public Management degree are, and our first one is also congratulated by his proud father, Professor Kenneth Apfel, Dana Apfel. Emily Bango. Julia Begley. Ramel Calderwood. Jeanette Grimes. Tori Amante Johnson. Greg Lee. Quantia Ferguson Maxwell. Alexandria McKenzie. Jasmine Muriel. Alfredo Navarro. Kenneth Darrell Phillips. Durodi Sharma. Wei Shu.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, now that you're officially graduated, here to welcome you to the school's alumni is Amy Fisher. Ms. Fisher graduated in May 2015 with a master's in public policy and a specialization in social policy. She is currently policy director at the Refugee and Immigrant Center for Education and Legal Services in Washington, D.C. As many of you probably remember, here at the school, Amy served as the co-president of the Policy Student Government Association and is now currently the president of the School of Public Policy Alumni Chapter Board. President Fisher.
Thank you, Dinor. First and foremost, congratulations, especially because so many of you all I get to call very dear friends of mine. So it's so great to be here today, and I really can't believe it was only a year ago that I was sitting right where you all are right now. A year out, I can tell you that the relationships that you built while in school here don't end today, and in fact, they become even stronger. So I encourage you all to get involved and stay involved with the school after today. Join the alumni board, mentor students, speak to prospective students, come out to events. The Maryland School of Public Policy is like a family, it's a community, but it's entirely up to us to keep it that way. So again, many, many congratulations and welcome to the alumni community.
Thank you. I like calling her President Fisher, and I want to thank her for her leadership at the school ongoing, and to our two presidents this year, Laura Krall and Tom Babington. Thank you, Madam President and Mr. President. Okay, there's only one last step before you are truly alumni. Mr. Shoto, will you please come back and lead your peers one last time?
I couldn't remember if it was 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, go. So we're gonna go with 1, 2, 3, go. All right, 1, 2, 3, go. Congratulations, guys.
So Christopher, good leaders always have to be able to improvise. This concludes our formal commencement ceremony. Congratulations, graduates.